Yes, it's the Mad Scientist here. Welcome to part 2 of my interview for the Radical Personal Finance podcast. I missed my podcast intro music in part 1, so I figured I'd break out the synthesizer for part 2. In part 2 of my interview, we dive into tax advantage retirement accounts. There are many ways that future early retirees can utilize these types of accounts, and we discuss many of those ways during this part of the interview. If you're interested in minimizing your taxes as much as possible during your working years, then hopefully you're going to get a lot of good information out of this episode. So enough from me. Enjoy the podcast, and thank you again to Joshua for having me on his show.
All right, 3 strategies that you write articles about, and I want to go over these strategies because I think they're valid things, but a lot of times people don't understand kind of how this can work. Mm-hmm. Number 1 is you talk about traditional IRA versus Roth IRA. So walk us through your strategy and why you say to start with a traditional IRA, and walk us through your strategy of how to do that and how that works in an early retirement context.
Sure. And yeah, this is one of the main reasons I started the blog. I love the math behind all of this stuff, and I didn't see that there's a lot of advice out there, but not a lot of it pertains to people that are pursuing early financial independence. Most advice is geared towards people that are working to 65 and doing the standard thing. So yeah, this is a chance for me to dive into the math from a financial independence perspective. And yeah, before diving into it, I just want to make the point that, a lot of people focus on trying to, eke out another 1% over the index, and they, spend all their time picking stocks and doing all this stuff that may help them, but in most cases it won't. But then they ignore things like taxes and fees and transaction costs and like diversification and things that are in their control. They don't focus on, but then they try to make the money on things that they can't control. So taxes are a huge deal, and if you can minimize them, then you're going to be able to, meet your goals much sooner. So I just wanted to get that out there before I dive into this. But yeah, for someone who is pursuing financial independence, we're in a very unique situation where we're probably not going to make as much as we make right now. I know for me, I will never make this much, because even if I get a job that pays this much, I'm not going to work 100% of the year to get that wage. I'll maybe do 50% or just work a quarter of the year or whatever. So I know that I'm not going to make as much as I do now. So that already is one benefit of going traditional over Roth, because the tax that I'm paying now on my last dollar of income is a lot greater than the tax that I would be paying when I'm withdrawing from that account. So that is already a benefit. I personally like to take benefits that are available instantly. So I would much rather have the tax break now and have more of my money working for me than put it in a Roth and then get that nice tax-free withdrawal later on a lesser amount of total money, just because every dollar that I put into a traditional IRA, I'm getting 100 cents of value to buy the shares. So if it's a Roth, I'm actually only putting 80 cents worth of shares in the Roth, because I got taxed on the 20 cents before I could even buy the shares. So that extra 20 cents worth of shares is just going to compound and grow over the 30 plus years I have it in the account, and that is going to far exceed, I think, any downside to having to get taxed on that income later. But there are also very nice loopholes that not many people take advantage of, but only because they don't live the sort of lifestyle that I plan on living. So there's a way to actually convert your traditional IRA and 401k into a Roth IRA. You can. Do you want me to go into that now, or do you want me
to
come
back
to that? Yeah,
no,
okay.
Go ahead.
So just to give you an idea of my strategy, I actually can't contribute to a traditional IRA because of my income limits, but my 401k acts in a similar way. So I currently max out my 401k, so that's $17,500 a year that goes into my 401k. So that's pre-tax money, so that means that's not taxed, so that lowers my taxable income by $17,500. So already I'm saving thousands of dollars on tax that would have been taxed on that. I then contribute that to my 401k, and I will continue to max that out until I stop working. So at the point I stop working, I can roll that 401k directly into a traditional IRA because, like I said, they're both similar types of accounts, and when you leave your job, you can roll that over into a traditional IRA. So once it's there, I can gradually convert that to a Roth IRA. And the way that works is, since you weren't taxed on the 401k or traditional IRA, you then have to pay tax when you convert a traditional to a Roth. But if, as Joshua mentioned, my expenses are going to be very low, my income's going to be non-existent, so, well, besides the small amounts of, that I'm drawing down on, getting some dividends and capital gains and things like that, but it's going to be below the threshold that I'm even going to be taxed. So it's possible I think I worked out my numbers, it's possible for me, once I reach financial independence, to transfer over $9,000 a year from my traditional IRA to my Roth IRA and not get taxed on a single penny of that transfer. So then, since I have 30 years to transfer everything, by the time I reach standard retirement age of 59 and a half, I should have hopefully been able to convert my entire 401k, my entire traditional IRA that I funded back when my income was lower. I should be able to transfer all of that money into a Roth IRA and not pay a single tax on the conversion, which would then result in all of that money being completely tax-free because it was tax-free going in, it's been growing tax-free, and then it'll be in a Roth IRA when I withdraw it, so then it will be completely tax-free at withdrawal. So that is a great way to have completely tax-free retirement money legally and not going to jail.
Yeah, and this is a strategy. The only place that this strategy is an excellent strategy. The place that it works is if you're planning on either if you're planning on having your income drop down to an extremely low level, or if it happens for you by accident, maybe through a layoff, maybe through a medical condition, something like that. So this could either happen by plan, like you're doing, or it could also happen for people who are just it happens through circumstance. But this is really valuable because the strategy that you're using, by taking your upfront deduction, you can generally get dependent. This is all income dependent. So again, this is not tax advice. You've got to consult your own tax advisor who can walk you through the actual for your situation. But conceptually, if you can cut your income down through 401k and IRA contributions, that'll help you to get into a lower bracket. It may help you to qualify for some more of the income-based either tax credits or deductions that are available to you. And by paying very, very low taxes now, and then like you said, dropping your income out, you can then do the conversion into a Roth. And by picking it up little by little, you can do this at a very, very low cost or nothing. And in addition to it, by being in at a low income level, I don't know what we would call it, retirement or financial independence under your plan. If you can keep underneath the brackets, if you can keep underneath the 15% bracket, you could conceivably get to a point where you pay $0 of income tax because you have a low amount of earned income. Any dividends in taxable accounts would be taxed, and capital gains can be at a 0% level. And then also with doing this strategy and by carefully regulating how much income you pick up, it can result in a very low tax bill. But this is not something that generally a CPA is going to point out to somebody. It's generally something that you need to understand at first, and then ask your CPA or yourself, if you run them yourself, how much income you can pick up. the rules are generally with retirement accounts that you can't get the money out until you're at least 59 and a half years old without paying penalties on it. Well, there is a rule once you have money in the Roth IRA that after you've done the contribution and the money has been in there for at least 5 years, you can withdraw your basis in a Roth IRA, which is the amount of money that you've contributed and paid tax on, which under our example would be a low amount of money, but it's happening each year. After 5 years, you can go ahead and withdraw those contributions and use them for current income, even if you're before the age of 59 and a half.
Exactly, and that's a huge point, and that's because I get a lot of questions. It's like, wow, you're putting so much money into your retirement accounts, but you can't get at it until you're 60, 59 and a half, and it's like, how are you going to fund the next 29 and a half years of your life, 28 and a half years of your life? And it's like exactly that strategy is what I plan on using, and I've seen it referred to other places as a Roth IRA conversion ladder, and you're exactly right. So currently all that money is growing. So say I only put in $5,000 into my 401k. And I let it grow for 10 years, and now it's $10,000 or something. When I do the conversion, the whole $10,000 acts as my contribution. So then I could potentially withdraw that entire amount after 5 years, which is a great, nice little side benefit of even taking your gains and accessing them beforehand. So yeah, in my case, like I said, so assume that I'm going to, as soon as I achieve financial independence, I'm going to start converting, $9,000, say, per year from my traditional IRA to my Roth IRA. So that means after 5 years of doing that, then every year from then on out, if I continue doing that, I'll be able to just withdraw $9,000 to live off of tax-free every single year from that account until whenever until my money runs out, really. So if you can come up with, as long as you have enough in your non-retirement accounts to fund 5+ years of your lifestyle, then you can then sustain yourself potentially off the rest, paying little to no tax. So yeah, sure. If I needed to live off of $15,000 a year, then I could transfer that amount every year and create my $15,000 Roth IRA ladder and pay a little bit of tax on it. But I think I can, if I live on less of that, then it makes sense to convert less, and then that way I'm not paying any tax. So
yeah, and there's some beautiful things to the Roth, is that because there's no if you have a lot of money in a Roth IRA and you're past the ages where you can take it out, if you have a huge portfolio inside of a Roth, you can take out a huge amount of dividends per year and continue to have an effective tax rate of 0. So if you have a lot of money in it, you can do that. There's one other one that I want to point out in addition to what you said that a lot of people simply aren't familiar with. There is a rule called the 72T distribution. So the IRS allows you one way to get money out of retirement accounts before the age of 59 and a half without paying penalties, and it's if you do it under what's called a series of substantially equal payments. Now, this is extremely dangerous for most people because most people aren't in a situation where most people aren't in a situation where they have so much money that they can start taking money out of retirement accounts before 59 and a half. But in the context of an early retirement strategy like you're pursuing, if you have the money in a Roth IRA and you've got that contribution done starting at really any age, if you take the money out under a table, an amortization table that is equal payments that are expected to last over your lifetime, then the money can come out before the 59 and a half deadline without paying the penalty taxes, and in this case, without paying any taxes. Now, the disadvantage, if you ever stop the money before 59 and a half, then you owe the penalty tax. And so this has to continue for your lifetime. But in the right situation, for the right scenario, for an early retiree looking to use these accounts for early tax savings and later tax savings, if the rules continue as they are now, there are some ways of using the money. So
absolutely, that's a great point as well. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that, just because I'm hoping that maybe I won't even tap into that money and just let it grow tax free. But yeah, that's an excellent way of knowing that you can get out that money without, going through a Roth conversion ladder or anything like that. So that's an excellent point.
Yeah, and you also want to choose carefully what assets you put into a Roth IRA. So generally, if you're going to have both capital gains assets and income assets, so capital gains assets usually stocks, and income assets such as bonds, you would usually want to put your income assets inside of your retirement account. So you could have a scenario by using some of the things that you're pointing out. You could have a scenario where you have a taxable brokerage account that holds your stock portfolio. If you're going to have an asset allocation that's going to include both stocks and bonds, you could use the brokerage account to hold your stock portfolio, which with your low income, if you can keep under that 15% income limit, which is kind of the numbers where you're at with your low income, you can effectively have a 0% capital gains rate and very favorable dividend rates. And then with your income investments inside of the Roth IRA, that would allow you to use corporate bonds instead of municipal bonds, pick up a little bit of extra yield, and then you would be able to have that income coming out of your portfolio on a tax-free basis by using your Roth. So there's a lot of little useful tools here, which maybe we'll cover in more detail in the future. But for the right scenario, your strategy of start with IRAs and 401ks, especially if they're deductible now, and then pursue the conversion strategy. If your income is low in early retirement, then it's a powerful strategy.
Yeah, and I just ran some numbers just to give people an idea, because it's not, you're not eating ramen on this plan. Like I said, assume you convert 9,000 a year, you can still live off of 30,000+ of dividends and long-term capital gains and still not be taxed on any part of that $9,000 conversion. So we're still talking big numbers here. Like you could have an amazing life, living off of your 30 grand worth of whatever your investments are returning, and you're drawing down on them and dividends and things, and still do 9,000 every year converting it into a Roth. So it's the tax code does seem to favor early retirees, which is quite nice. And the amount of money that you can actually save by implementing some of these strategies is so much more than you're going to get if you try to beat the markets or try to find the star mutual fund manager and things like that. So your time is much better spent learning the tax code and learning some of these little tricks and loopholes, and taking advantage of these types of accounts, and you're going to shed years and years off of your retirement and not get any more risk. Whereas if you're just trying to pick stocks and beat the market, you may knock a few years off, but you may add a couple decades, and your risk is much higher. So.
Yeah, we want to use every one of these things. So, and by the way, obviously, anytime you're talking about financial stuff, it probably doesn't need to be said, but I'll say it anything. This is all situation dependent. So hopefully people can just use these ideas and then look at your situation and consult somebody who's qualified and properly credentialed to give specific advice. But maybe some of these ideas would help each person to figure out their specific situation, because neither of us is probably qualified to give specific tax advice. But
absolutely, yeah, that's always worth mentioning. But yeah, at least you have something to go and talk about and ask about.
Now, the next strategy of the three is you have what you call the ultimate retirement account, and this is a type of retirement account that most people don't have a clue about. So walk us through a summary of what you consider to be the ultimate retirement account and why.
Okay, yeah. So as I said, I love taking advantage of tax advantages up front. I know this is going to be probably the most I'm ever earning, so I want to lower my tax burden now as much as I possibly can, because then that means more of my money's working for me over a longer period of time. So yeah, the ultimate retirement account in my mind is the HSA, which is the Health Savings Account. Now, this is an account that people can contribute to if they are currently enrolled in what's called a high deductible health plan. So If you aren't, then you won't be able to get the tax advantages of contributing to this type of account. And the contribution limits are much lower than things like 401k and even IRAs. So you're not going to get too much bang for your buck, but it is definitely a good way to lower your taxable income and getting lots of the benefits of both a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA. So to explain how this works and why it is so beneficial to contribute to. So the idea is that you can contribute, I think it's $32.50 in 2013, I think the contribution limit is. So you can contribute up to $32.50 a year, and that is pre-tax, so you're not taxed on that income. And you can then invest it, depending on the people that are holding your HSA. Some have better investment options. Others just have, like a savings account or equivalent. Mine, I can, invest in broad index funds, stock market index funds, things like that have low expense ratio. So I treat it just as another investment account. So the idea is you can put this money in and then use that money for medical expenses without paying any tax on it. So that means that, if you spend $200 at the doctor, that $200 is completely tax-free. So already you're better off, because no doubt you're going to have some medical expense in your life that you're going to have to pay for, and it's much better to just pay for it with tax-free money than it is to pay for after-tax money. So that's the main idea behind the account, is to allow you to pay for healthcare expenses with your own money and not pay any tax on that money. So my ideas, though, there's a little. It's not a loophole, I guess, but it's just part of the rules. You don't have to take out that money as soon as you pay for the health expense. So, for instance, say, like I said, I had a $200 doctor bill. So yes, I could take that $200 out of my HSA, hand it to the doctor, and then that's it. I just used tax-free money to pay for it, which is great. Alternatively, I could pay for that with $200 out of my wallet. That's, I've already been taxed on. It's just my cash. And then I can leave that $200 sitting in my HSA for the next 40 years to grow tax-free. And then I could take out that $200 tax-free. So this is another way that I'm saving for my early retirement. So it's sort of acting to me like a combination of a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA, and an early retirement IRA, because every time I spend money at a doctor, I'll keep track of it. That money will continue to grow tax-free, and then say when I'm 49, I'm like, oh man, I really need $200. Then I can take that out tax-free and keep all of the investment earnings that have accumulated over those 19 years, and those will continue to grow. So it's like, it's like I've been calling it the super IRA. And the best thing is, so you may be saying like, oh, well, that's great, but what if I don't have, $3,200 worth of medical expenses before, I turn 60 or something? The good news is that account then just converts into a traditional IRA. So at the worst case, it's just a traditional IRA. At the best case, it's a super Roth, where it's, a traditional IRA because you don't pay tax going in. It's like a Roth IRA because you don't pay tax going out, and it grows tax-free, and you can withdraw some of the money prior to standard retirement age, so you can use it in early retirement as well. So I hope that summarized it. My post on it's probably a lot more eloquent, but
yeah, this should give people just a teaser. Yeah, the HSA for early retirees is, and I've pointed people a couple times to your article because it does do a good job of kind of explaining it. Most people aren't so familiar with HSAs, and most people don't know about the fact that they can take the money out and spend it on any expense after the age of 65. So now you're going to go ahead and pay income taxes at ordinary income tax rates after that time. But that's identical to a traditional IRA. But most people aren't familiar with that. And people often kind of get these confused with flexible spending accounts, FSAs, which have to be spent each year. They don't realize that the money can accumulate inside of the HSA. My encouragement is this is a good way of stacking functions. For early retirees, you're likely going to, legally now with the changes in U.S. American healthcare law, you're going to need to maintain some health insurance. And by the way, one caveat, it's a little unclear at the moment what, with the implementation of the whether you call it Obamacare or Patient Protection Act, Affordable Care Act, whatever it is, with the changes in health insurance, the future of high deductible health plans is a little bit uncertain, and then the future of health savings accounts is a little bit uncertain. Doesn't seem like anything alarming, but keep it, if you're listening to this a year, 2, 3 years from now, which is July of 2013, check the current rules because this may have changed since then. But the flexible spending accounts, people, you have to spend those each year, you lose the money. That doesn't occur with the health savings account. So the health savings account gives you an upfront deduction, and one way to add to your case for a super retirement account, unlike contributions to IRAs and Roth IRAs, my understanding is that health savings accounts are not subject to Medicare and Social Security taxes. So in a traditional IRA, although you don't pay current income taxes, your money, you still have to pay Medicare and Social Security taxes on the income. With a health savings account, you don't. So that's an extra savings. The money can accumulate. Most people aren't familiar with how liberal the definitions of what health expenses are. So check the IRS website. There is I'll put a link to it. I think it's publication 502, where you can check the IRS lists of what qualifies as an expense. But even things like the ones that always interest me is I wear contacts and contact solution are qualified. Some prescription drugs, it used to be that over-the-counter drugs were covered. That rule changed a few years ago. Even things that maybe traditional health insurance doesn't quite cover fully, things like chiropractic adjustments, other types of alternative medicine may be covered. Check the IRS rules. So there's a lot of flexibility to it. Plus, the fact that people are paying with your own dollars allows you sometimes with your healthcare provider to negotiate a discount, a cash payment discount that doesn't necessarily go through the insurance claim. And sometimes you get better deals because of that. So when you start stacking current expenses, current things, on top of your ideas about delaying the distribution and also taking it as retirement, it definitely bears looking into, and it's one of those valuable places that people can stack their benefits if they're able to arrange their financial affairs in such a way that they can make the contributions.
Yeah, and you made some great points about the FSA, because that I actually just got an email from a reader recently, and he said, I got this money, I'm about to dive into my health savings account, but I was reading the fine print and it said that you need to use this before the end of the year or else you'll lose it. And I hurried up and emailed him really quickly, and I was like, no, that's an FSA, that's a flexible spending account, and you will lose it. So definitely do not put all your money in there if you don't think you're going to spend it within a year. So and then he wrote back and he's like, yep, that was an FSA, and it looks like I don't have an HSA to contribute to. So so that's very, very important. Because you will lose the money out of a flexible spending account. So make sure you check that first. And your Medicare, that was also a great point. That'll save you another 7.5% or 7.65% or something that you would have had to pay on that money. So that's definitely another excellent benefit.
Yeah, and to your reader there, just a suggestion to listeners. An HSA is generally, the HSA account is something that generally most places you'll want to set up yourself. So your employer may offer you a high deductible health plan which is HSA qualified. If that's the case, they may not, generally an employer doesn't say, here's who you have to use for your health savings account. You can go out and research and find a provider that will do it outside of that. So if you have a health insurance plan that's a high deductible health plan that's HSA qualified, you can still open the account. It generally won't be something that is deducted off of your pay stub. So speak with your human resources department and ask about that. Number two, for early retirees who don't have an employer, this is still possible with an individually owned high deductible health plan. So as long as your plan is HSA qualified and your health insurance provider will let you know that, you can use an HSA bank, or generally they're offered by banks or sometimes brokerage companies, and you can research what would be the best provider. Then you can open this type of account on your own. There are a lot of acronyms in health insurance. Don't get them confused. There's HSAs, which is health savings account, FSAs, which is flexible spending accounts, HRAs, which are health reimbursement accounts. Each of them is unique and has their own advantages and disadvantages and their own implementation. But hopefully this will give people some a little bit of information to talk to their HR people or research further on their own. Anything else on the HSA, Brand, before we go on to the last thing I want to talk about?
No, I think that covers it. And then, those are all really good points that you made.
Absolutely. Free Ivy League degree.
Right, yep.
Talk me through this. What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm currently one class and a thesis away from getting a master's degree. This is something,
What's your degree in?
I'm sorry?
What's your degree going to be in?
So it's a complete 180 from what my computer science bachelor's of science degree was. So I'll have to say first I'm working full time. So there's only at the institution that I work at, there's only a few programs that you can do part time, and this is one of them. So I'm getting my Master's of Arts in Liberal Studies, but my thesis is actually going to be on. I actually just was emailing my thesis advisor this morning about my proposal, but it should be something that would be interesting to both of our listeners. So hopefully it'll result in some pretty cool research. But yeah, no, it's a Master of Arts. I've always thought I would go back to school. I've always wanted to try grad school, and but there's no way I would want to pay for it because I currently don't need any other qualifications to reach financial independence, so there's no way I was going to set myself back, $50K just to go back to school for a bit. But yeah, no, my wife and I moved to an area where there's excellent university close by, and I decided at the time I was working remotely for a financial company, and so yeah, once we moved close to the Ivy League school, I was like, well, let me look into it, see if there's any programs that, I could take, could complete for free as an employee. So there was, and it sounded interesting and something that I hadn't done before because, like I said, I was computer science, so I was just doing math and science and programming pretty much my entire undergraduate career, whereas this one's much different, lots of reading and paper writing and discussions and things like that. So yeah, I thought it'd be worth it. So I decided I was going to go for it. And so I just kept an eye on the job boards for the school. And then as soon as one popped up that was what I do, I applied, got it. And yeah, I'm less than a year from graduation, which feels great because it's been doing it part-time is quite difficult. Working full-time and then trying to do papers and read tons of books and all this sort of stuff. And since I'm doing it part-time, it took over, I think it'll be just under 3 years that I'll complete it in. And I have less than a year left, so I feel like I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And yeah, it's been great, and I highly recommend it for anyone that wants to go back to school. I think that people could even get undergrad degrees by going this route. I'm not sure on that, but I think that that's the case. But you can definitely get a graduate degree, and yeah, it's been very fulfilling. So
yeah, this can be, and the reason I wanted to talk about this is education is many people's one of their major expenses, and people are very passionate about education. Some people passionately believe that without formal education, your future is doomed. And some people very passionately believe that if you go down the route of formal education, your future is doomed. So
right.
There are a lot of strong feelings on it. But and you know, you and I don't know what's right for people. But if people are interested in formal education, the approach that you're pursuing is one that can add a lot of benefits. And so I've thought a little bit about some different ways that you can leverage these. And again, this there may just be a couple ideas in here for people to to pursue on their own and see what's right for them. Number one is that, exactly like you said, many universities, if you're working for that university, will give you either discounted or completely free access to their classes. Usually it's a cap of a certain number of classes. And I think that could be done at undergraduate levels, graduate degrees, and even master's and PhD type of work. And so the other thing is that by working at a university, a lot of times the university may be a very enjoyable work environment. So rather than somebody working at a job that they don't like, that's very stressful, and then going out and taking on student loans to pay for a degree, it may be worth looking into working at a university and then using the discounted courses as a way to do that. And by lowering your taxable income, it's possible that you may be able to simply have a lower tax bill if you're earning a higher income and you go to a lower income, rather than having to pay for your income with taxable dollars. You're getting a valuable fringe benefit. A lot of times, also, universities offer generous benefit programs that go beyond their salaries. So universities sometimes offer very generous retirement programs with generous matches, generous health insurance. So if you look at the total value of a compensation package and include into it the dollars of your degree, what you would be paying for the classes if you were paying for them out of pocket, it could be compelling.
Those are all excellent points, and that was some of the things that I had to consider, because like I said, I was working for a big city financial company. I was working remotely, so I had a lot of flexibility as far as that's concerned, and I was making good money, and it was a decrease to go and work for the university, but if you add up all the benefits, like the tons of paid time off, lots of holidays, great retirement benefits and healthcare and things like that, and if you do add all those up, it is pretty similar to what I was actually earning as a pay by the hour consultant, which is pretty impressive. And then when you factor in the educational benefits, then it totally blows it out of the water, because right now I think it costs over $6,000 per course, and I'm taking 4 courses per year. So that's another $24,000 of value that I'm extracting from being employed by the university. And as you said, it's much lower stress. It's just a totally different environment from corporate America. Like, it's much more rewarding as well. I'm helping some of the smartest kids in the country get a degree rather than helping the bottom line of some financial company. And I actually enjoy my work a lot more. And yeah, it's great getting a salary and going to school. And most of my classmates are paying $50,000 a year and not getting paid. So
yeah, and in addition, for early retirees, I think there's some other benefits. I'm familiar with some friends of mine who worked at a university, but also by being students and working at the university, had access to some university housing. And that housing is provided, they needed to pay for it, but is provided at a discounted rate, or they can negotiate that as part of their compensation package. And so if you have university housing, that can help when people are looking to decrease their expenses substantially, because it generally would be less than maybe what you could find, in the miles around a university. In addition, again, stacking functions, if you are living and working on a university campus where you're getting your education, it's probable that you can lower some of your other expenses, such as transportation expenses. Many college students will ride a bike to class, and so now instead of having to ride a bike 10 miles across town for a commute, you can simply walk to your job. That lowers your expenses. Also, things like entertainment in the university system. College students generally aren't the most affluent. There's plenty of free and cheap entertainment that's really interesting that would allow people to live an extremely enjoyable but lower cost lifestyle. And people forget about this a lot of times, that it's not just something that you can only do at 20 years old. some friends of mine, were doing it in their mid-30s with kids and still able to live they weren't living in the dorms with the 18-year-old freshman students, but they were living in on-campus housing, working there. Both spouses worked at the university. And it's a compelling situation financially if you can start to stack those functions. So there's a way to get a degree and get an expensive education without necessarily going the retail route. And just to go into details for a second, my friends who were both spouses were working at the university, earning the income. When you take on the fact that you have a couple of kids, you're living and working on a university campus where you have entertainment, low transportation costs, low housing expenses. When you take the kids and you take relatively low income but a lot of value for the income, and you start to run that through the tax code, you can qualify for the child deductions, you can qualify with a generous 401k or 403b as the case may be, retirement accounts, you can qualify for refundable earned income tax credits. I mean, it's a substantial financial gain for the right person in the right circumstances.
Absolutely, and you forgot one of the best things: the university library. There's just you could just keep yourself entertained for decades with the amount of stuff that's in there. They got DVDs, CDs, they got tons of books, and yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of fringe benefits of working for a university that could. Yeah, make it very worthwhile for someone that's thinking about going back to school. And yeah, just in case anybody questions anything, I use 401k synonymously with 403b, but I actually have a 403b since it's a nonprofit entity that I work for. But yeah, same type of thing, same account pretty much. But yeah, just in case some of your more your listeners that are listening very closely, then I don't want anybody to think that, hey, how's he have a 401k if he works at a university? But
that's true. And then two other things, like just to add on to that, two other ideas that I've had, and if you have any others. The nice thing about universities is many times universities have programs of either whether it's study or employment where they're working together with other schools that are in other places in the country or other places in the world. And so if somebody has an interest in world travel, it may be that by pursuing their education at a foreign university, when I was younger, I considered studying at University of Hong Kong because I was interested in living there. I didn't pursue it, but it could be that by being a student in an international context, you can take some of those things that you talked about earlier with travel, you can combine it with earning an income and combine it with educational value, and now you've stacked so many functions on top of each other that you've got a really powerful scenario.
Absolutely. Yep. Studying abroad in Glasgow was one of the best years of my life, and yeah, I met my wife over there and completely changed my outlook on everything. So yeah, that could be a very fun and rewarding thing to do.
Yeah. And then the last one, and then we'll wrap up, is that just to remind people that a lot of times this isn't necessarily just limited to university level. Many times if somebody's looking for a way, whether it's private school, many private schools for elementary and high school students offer similar programs. And it could be that if somebody, this is something that my parents were able to do, or that my parents did that allowed me and some of my siblings to attend a private school, it could be that instead of two parents working at higher income jobs, it could be that with one of the parents switching to working at either a university so that their children could go through college, or whether it's because this is also a strategy for kids, that if you have children that you need to put through university, the same type of program can apply to parents and their children's students. Or at high schools, you can get a significant discount up to 100% on tuition. And if that lowers your tax bill because you have a lower earned income, if that allows for you to pursue some of these other strategies that we're talking about, consider it, and consider if some of these strategies might help you to achieve your financial goals sooner. So
definitely great advice.
Brandon, what do we miss? Anything else you want to add? That's about it as far as what I had on my list of things to talk about. Anything that we missed, or any last?
Yeah, that was great. I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, that was, like I said, I was looking forward to being on the other side of it, and it was a lot easier. So you did a fantastic job, and I had a great time. So I appreciate you letting me come on and talk about some of this stuff.
Awesome. Thanks again, Brandon.
Hey, my pleasure, Joshua. Take care.
All right, bye.